which stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. Appreciate it. Additions, deletions, and deduction from the agenda. Do we have any? Do we have a motion to accept it?
So moved.
You have a second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Marsha Green with the Firefighter Association Insurance. We have been talking quite a while about it. Felt like it's a time now has came to get involved and try to find out the best way to do it. So you spoke with the Firemen Association a month ago, and now we're bringing it before the committee to let's discuss it. So if you'd like to come up to the podium, or can you get up there? Yeah. Okay. Or we bring the podium to you.
No. May I give you
Yes.
copies of what
Yes.
we're going to go over?
Do you have any more for if anybody else would like any?
Yes.
Okay.
20 copies. About 20 copies.
Okay, great.
Zarina's going to stand up here in case I fall over.
Okay, great.
She's
No, I'm
actually
okay.
going to kind of introduce what the association is about before we go into this.
Sure, and I
just to
appreciate
get
you.
everybody
I
up.
appreciate you doing that because the association represents all of our firemen, and they're behind the scenes and what can be, offered to us on that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity. And we just thought we were asked to maybe go over what the association is and why you pay dues, the fire departments in the state do. So we were formed in 1905 through state legislation to be the 1%, to be the fiduciaries of the 1% fund. And that is something that every fire department gets funding that is a member of the association and also does part of their responsibilities through the fire marshal's office at the state fire marshal's office level. So once they qualify, then we are responsible for managing that fund that's given to all the departments in the state, all right? And with that, we manage that fund, we make sure they're taking care of it. They can spend it in 3 different ways: insurance and retirement, recruitment and retention, and training and education. So those are the only 3 areas they can spend it on. So we sort of oversee that and that they're spending it correctly, right?
I'm sorry to interrupt. You mind elaborating, because some stations does not get the funding to be able to use that money, and so we felt like that it can't afford it.
Yes, sir. The funding is based on your response area, okay? And it is what the 1% makeup is. So the county treasurers get it. It comes from the county, comes from the state treasurer down to the county treasurers, and it is basically the fire premium tax on every home, building, anything but government buildings and churches have that portion given to the Department of Insurance. The insurance then has a formula that spits out that 1% that is given to the fire departments in the state, okay? Half of it goes to the fire departments, the other half goes to the State Fire Academy. And how that is your assessed district, okay? Their area is how much they get. So if a county gets $100,000, okay, the city may get a little more. There may be departments that get others that are just more than a department that is more rural.
Sure.
Okay, and that's basically how it is. Counties all over the state do it differently. I know that's how Newberry is. It is just broken down based on that department's call area and the volume and the premium in there. There also is a broker tax attached to that. We see that fluctuates though every year, just depending on events that take place. And if somebody is purchasing those premiums for those events, then you get a broker tax put into it. And that's going to look different to every department, and that's why every department in Newberry County gets something different. So you have some that do have the funds, like you said, to purchase these policies, and they have gone through us to purchase policies. We've got, I think, four departments, maybe 3 departments, and 1 rescue squad.
Right.
Yes. And so the others just may not have it. And that brings me to where the part of the history lesson is not only were we here to be fiduciaries of that, but what else would we be? We wanted to give benefits. The The state of South Carolina didn't have that at the time when we first started. So now we do line of duty death benefits that she's gonna go over with, that's in this policy, that they get with their membership dues. They also get a very small income protection benefit, because when I started 20 years ago, it was 80% volunteer in the state. Now we know that's closer to the 67, 68%, even nationally. It's, starting to come more career, which we see that happening. But then our mission and basically our passion was to make sure those volunteers who were serving the community were being taken care of. So if they were hurt on behalf of the fire department doing anything, we wanted to be able to give them more than South Carolina Workers' Comp was going to give them. And today we see that, I know I'm probably stealing your thunder, but today we see that in 2025, it is the average volunteer would get, the average South Carolina firefighter in the state, 37.5% of that income, which comes out to be about $425. Then they get 2/3 of it, because that's state law, 2/3, 66% is going to be given to them. So it comes out to be about $283. So if you had a volunteer that was working, they were only going to get from workers' comp about $280 a week. And we knew that you couldn't survive off of that, because that's what our calls were coming in. Can you help us? Is there a fund? Is there a hardship fund? Which we have a foundation as well. We do try to help as much as possible, but it's very limited. So policies help us maximize. That's what insurance is. You're bringing in something to be able to pay, to be able to maximize a benefit for a payout. And that's basically what we did. We formed in 2005 our own insurance company, and we were able to bring in new clients in the state that we never had before, new providers that would be able to offer these policies at a discounted rate, or basically we would take less commission or commission to go back to the association to be able to help for these specific needs. And that's what we're here today for. So when departments can use their 1% for retirement and insurance, we're advocates of that. And so we try to sell these policies that are truly going to help them continue to serve. But in the event something happens and they have an illness or an injury, they're going to be taken care of if they're missing their day or their full-time job salary. Because it's not going to be what you get paid during the day. It's going to be
Right.
that today, $283 estimated amount
Sure.
for a volunteer.
Sure.
So,
Thank you for that.
and that's where it leads us today. So
Yes, so we were asked to come in and possibly provide a quote that goes over what the members could possibly get. And like Zarina mentioned, and Mr. Smith has mentioned, a lot of your departments don't have the extra funds to cover their members. So our goal is to make sure, one, that we have inexpensive policies, but also that we have policies that are going to cover them as best we can provide for them. So if you look at this first quote, it says 24-hour AD&D. We do sell these. The next quote I'm going to go over is more than what they would need, but this is 24 hours a day. So if you had a volunteer that, and even a career, but we're talking volunteers today, if you had a volunteer that was on his way to church or on her way to church, got in an accident, lost their life, this policy would come into place. If they lost just like a leg, a digit, anything like that, then this policy would also come in place. So the way it works is if you look down, you're going to see a plan 1, 2, and 3. Those are the quotes that we provided based on the amount that they thought would help the members. So let's just stick with Plan 1 to look at that. So Plan 1, if a firefighter loses their life, either on duty or off duty, because they have an option to cover both, it's called a double indemnity, then their family would receive the $10,000. If the department or the county rather decided to do double indemnity, their family would receive $20,000. And the price for that, if you look down, is $3,176. And that's covering all 400 members that were listed for the policies. So we do have this as like a secondary policy, just because the other policy I'm going to go over is for on the job only. This covers them 24 hours a day. Any questions on how that is? And it pays a percentage, like if they were to lose 2 or 3 fingers, it's going to pay a percentage up to that $10,000. But if they were to pass away, then it would be the full $10,000 for the death benefit. And just stop me if you have questions, so,
Y'all got any questions?
okay.
If you
So
could
would
put
you
up that,
mind
yeah,
going to the next slide
that
for me?
second. There we go.
Yes, okay. So this is what we call our A&H, Accident and Health Policy. It's broken down into several sections. I'm going to just touch base a little bit on the benefits, but kind of focus on the one that's the third that says income protection. So again, if you look, there's 3 different plans. We chose 3 different amounts so that you could figure out which one fits the departments the best in order to purchase a policy. For the covered death benefit, again, this is on the job only. So if there was a member that lost their life in the line of duty, their family could receive the $25,000, $30,000, or $35,000. If you follow it across, that's the plans. So we'll just look through Plan 1, and then you can just kind of verify with Plan 2 and 3 as you're going on if you'd like to. Now, covered illness only covers a heart attack or stroke on call. So if they lose their life coming back from a call from a heart attack or stroke, then this comes into play. Or if they have a heart attack within 24 hours, 24 or 48? 24 hours of coming off of a call, then this policy would still pay out for them. You have your HIV positive. They can take that in percentage, or they can take the whole lump sum if they get infected with HIV. We have a department bereavement benefit, which means if they department loses a member in the line of duty, they want to put up a bench or a flagpole or something to honor that member, that's what this amount is in there for. They cannot give it to the family of the deceased. It's something they do have to do to honor that member at the fire department. The airbags, we won't go over that. That's pretty much, everybody's going to be wearing their seatbelts, and the airbags are going to deploy if something happened. The dependent child, though, going back up to that. So it doesn't matter if that firefighter had 2 children or 8 children. They're all going to receive that $10,000 under the age of 18, under the age of 18. I always get that confused with medical, which is 26, but it's under the age of 18 or up to the age of 18. Each one of those children would receive that $10,000. And that's good because it'll help the family out with, the loss of their main person. Spousal benefit, again, that is the money paid out to the spouse. That's in there for 2 reasons. It's in there for, in case the firefighter left the benefit to their children, the $25,000 to their children, this gives the wife a little something as well. But one of the main reasons it was put in is because with this policy is a beneficiary form for the members to complete, and that tells us who they want their benefits to be paid to. So we have had the unlucky situation where we have a divorced person, but they still had their ex-spouse as their beneficiary, and that meant the current spouse was not going to get anything. So that's one of the reasons this was added in there as well. So whoever's on the beneficiary form, if it's an ex-spouse, would get money, but the original spouse would, or the current spouse would as well. And then you have some education benefits built in there for the spouse and the children. Impairment, there's not really much to talk about on that. It's paid out in a percentage of loss of hearing, loss of sight, anything like that, cosmetic burns, they pay a percentage of whatever benefit you choose. And the impairment modification, I think, is important because if you have a member who is injured and now for 6 months he's going to have to use a wheelchair to get around or in his house or needs a ramp put up, that's what that money is for, the modification. So they can use up to that amount to, build the ramp, give them the wheelchair, whatever they need to get around until they're healed. Now, before we jump to the next page, because that's pretty much, easy as well, but this section here, section 3, this is what we think is most important for your firefighters. So as Zarina mentioned, if they get injured in the line of duty, they're going to get anywhere from $200 to $300 from workers' comp. Now, just say they make $1,000, so you're taking away $300, so basically they're going to be short $800 out of their pay. So with this, we would bounce up their income to you had down 300, 400, and 800.
600.
Oh, sorry, 600. Let me put these on. And so what that means is, okay, you're injured in the line of duty. Now you can't volunteer, of course, but you also can't work if you're lawn care, or I always use my favorite vet who is in Newberry County. You know, he's got to make a pretty decent living, so he's not gonna be able to live off $800. So that's when we would take this, add it to whatever their loss of pay is. If they're only missing $400, we're just gonna add that additional 400. Along with, when Zarina mentioned that there's dues paid, and that small policy that the association has, with that policy, there's automatically a up to $75 that is paid to our members. Again, they can't live off $75 a week if they're missing, so that's why these policies are important. So it bumps up that loss that they have.
And I'm gonna stop you right there. So and the association always pays first to the volunteers, right? So the policy they get with their membership dues will pay first, which is that small $75, and then up to this 300, okay, on Plan 1. Then the workers' comp, that 283 we spoke about. Now, it would just be to max them out. So if they made under that amount, it would just be up to what they brought home, right? So we want to make sure that that's understood. And it also is, they do have to have a loss of wages.
Right.
So they would have to show that, okay? And also, in Newberry County, we have several rescue squads who aren't members. So basically, this would just be paid out. They wouldn't get the 75, but they would get the policy amount up to the 300 plus the workers' compensation.
And they are provided, I mean, they are supposed to provide documentation for that. So it's a very simple claim form they fill out. They send it to Zarina and myself. Policy actually is issued through Provident Insurance Agency. We send all the paperwork to them, and then they request additional paperwork. So it is just a little bit of paperwork, but we always say to our members, if it confuses you or you need help with it, please let us help you. We don't want them to get frustrated and not file when they could use the money. So that's basically our goal, is to make sure that when our firefighters are injured, they're not gonna lose their car, or they're not going to, you know, I wanna say starve their children, but that doesn't sound nice.
Have any
But
hardship, financial
yeah,
hardship.
any kind of financial hardship, because you're not gonna have any, you know, volunteers. They're gonna stop volunteering because they know the danger in the volunteering, you know, as being a volunteer, that they could potentially lose money and their families could suffer. So,
And we use it as a great recruitment and retention tool. So it's just something that they know, that they have a little peace of mind that they will be taken care of in the event something happens. as
and it
well.
covers their commuting. From what I understand, workers' comp, that's gotta be a certain situation where they would cover commuting, because we've heard that they do not sometimes. But this does cover commuting. So as a volunteer, I'm not sure how the departments do it, whether the fire is here and they go to the station and then respond to the fire, or they use their own POVs to go to the fire. Whatever that situation is, their first stop going to the fire, if they get in a wreck or an accident or anything like that, then this does come into play. And then what we call their first safe stop home. So when they leave the fire or the department, whatever scenario it is, and they decide they're gonna go to the grocery store, during that time would be what we consider their first safe stop if they got in an accident. If they stopped at the grocery store, did their grocery shopping, we consider that now not in the realm of firefighting. So if they're picking up their groceries and then heading home and getting in an accident, then it would not be covered on here. But it does cover the commuting to and from a call, no matter how they do it. And then,
Yeah,
let
and
me
I was
see.
just gonna, yep, and I think that's pretty much, there are some retraining and transition benefits that are on there, but I think, and there's cost of living, so this is a lifetime policy, which means that if they are permanently disabled, it will pay for the lifetime for an injury, okay? Or up to the age of 67 for illness. What we consider illness is heart attack or stroke. All right, so if they had a heart attack or stroke, training, or run into a call, something like that. So it is all built into this policy. And a lot of times, workers' comp may not cover, on the backside of this, the medical, you know, in South Carolina, workers' comp covers all medical. So there should not have any type of medical expenses outside of what workers' comp wouldn't take care of. But in the event workers' comp was to deny it, okay, for any reason, there is a medical expense. If you go to that next page, please, there is a medical expense built in. Yeah. Yep. Oh.
Yeah, so it should be,
Page 3 to the bottom.
no, it would be down
Keep
just a little
going
bit.
down just a
Yeah.
little bit more.
I call it down, everybody else
Maybe
calls
say
it up.
up.
So it would be the second page of that,
If there.
yeah, so.
Oh,
just-
that's the only
So
page
there it
that's on
is,
there?
medical expense.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, that's
okay, yeah.
No,
It's
no,
okay.
no, you're fine. It's 10 too,
10,000,
but the healthcare benefits.
yeah.
And so it's $10,000.
Okay.
And that's set there to make sure that it does cover, they're gonna have to use their health care. Okay, so they have a deductible. It's set in place to make sure that we cover their out-of-pocket expenses. So if they have to meet those deductibles, then, we're gonna pay up to $10,000 of that. And the other thing that is on there that I really wanna mention that is very important to to volunteers, is if you see the very last line is healthcare, health insurance premium benefit.
Yes.
All right, so that is really, really important, and I love these policies because of that. If you have a volunteer who works for ABC Company, and ABC Company, pays 50% of their health care and their family health care, okay? But they are responsible for the other 50%, but that company pays 50%. We're going to reimburse them the company's portion of that benefit as well. Okay, so that way they can continue, hopefully this would last them a year, is what we're hoping, of healthcare premiums. Okay. So, in case the event that they were disabled and lost their job,
Sure.
and now they've lost their healthcare.
Sure.
And so the way to look at this policy is, like I said, we have 3 different quotes, plan 1, 2, and 3. I always tell our members, or our departments, you have a 300, 400, and 600. The more you put in the disability, the higher the premium's gonna be. So if you have, most your members would be in that line item of, okay, if they lose pay, the 400 is gonna make them whole. And then you only have like maybe not even a third of your department that says, okay, well, we need the 600. You gotta weigh out price-wise which one you wanna do, because if you look at the very last page on the back, for the 600, your plan would be 1984, 64?
Yes.
19,843. And then the 400 would only be the 15,006. So I'm imagining that because you have volunteers, and some of them have really good jobs up in this area, so it may be the 600 that helps you better, or it may be the 400. That's what we kind of tell you to look at before you make a decision, because you don't want to waste your money on the highest premium when the middle premium would work, or if the lowest premium works better than the middle premium. So you got to kind of wage what your members, and I don't know how you do that with this many people. I don't know how you would look at their, personal pay or take some kind of survey or something. But that's what we want our members to use this policy. We just don't want to rob them of their money, because there's no gain for us in that. The gain is to get the firefighters whole. So that's basically how we present these policies for you. And the way it's paid, it's annual. So just say you did choose the first plan, the 12,000. So it'd be 12,259 for the year, and we would start coverage on whatever date we were told by you. Then just before renewal of that the following year, we send out what's called a questionnaire. And you would look at that, and if you've gone up on calls tremendously, you'd have to list that. If you gained another 80 people, we would need to know that, because that's the only other thing that's going to make your premium higher. But even for most of the time, it's less than 3%. So it really just, that's the kind of stuff that it's, now if you had 50 new members that you needed to add, it's not going to make any of this policy go up.
Okay.
So that's not something you have to worry about. It's just a large amount or area or anything.
Okay, I know we've got one question that presented itself about juniors.
Yes, they are covered.
Okay,
So if you look at the top of the other page, or the one you have, the first page that you have for the one that has the 3 long plans,
yes,
at the top, it says classification of membership, and that lists everybody that's gonna be covered under this policy.
okay,
And we pretty much look at it like, if you had a fundraiser and one of your members was burned, a member's, let's say spouse was burned, part of this policy would go to pay for them as well, because you told us they were doing something on behalf of the fire department. Even though they're not members, they were helping you out, so this policy would help cover certain things.
Sure.
Of course, they wouldn't receive the death benefit or anything like that, but there's other things in here that would help them out.
Sure.
So it's pretty much the association policy that's paid. We have to go into our database to make sure they are a dues paying member, in order to pay them. But with this kind of policy, it's kind of widespread, and, it's whoever you tell us would be, working on your behalf.
So on the first sheet we have Plan 1, 2, and 3, A, B, or A and B, and it's got it broken down. For example, I just used Plan 3, where it's under A and B, $6,267. So that's for all 400. So it comes out roughly $15.69 per firefighter. And then,
And that's for double coverage, because you're looking at, if you do coverage A and B, it would be the 40,000 instead of the 20,000.
and then this is a separate type policy, correct?
Exactly, yes.
So it would be, if we went with Plan 3, it'd be roughly about $49
Yeah,
per
about
firefighter,
40-something per firefighter.
which
Yes,
is
sir.
still cheap for what they do for us.
So these are two different plans, technically.
Yes, 2 different policies. You do not have to purchase both of them. You can purchase one, you could purchase none. That's totally up to you, but we just want to make sure that your volunteers are covered. And the reason they do it by 2 is because, like I said, this one is off the job, 24 hours. This bigger one is only what they do on behalf of the fire department.
This one,
Yes, sir.
this one only covers what they do for the fire department.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
when the call is came
Active,
in,
active
or,
fighting,
right, or
training.
fundraisers, or,
And this one is 24 hours.
Right, but that just covers your 400 members. That doesn't cover auxiliary or anything like that,
And it's just accidental death
and dismemberment.
okay.
So there's no
This one.
income protection
Yes, sir.
or anything, that's right.
I think I have a question in the back, Mr. Paul.
Yeah, I would just like to say, and I appreciate y'all,
Come on up front.
oh, I don't know if I need.
Come on up to the podium.
Yes.
Do you need me to move, Mr.
No,
Corey?
you're fine, Marcia. I've known you a long time. Sure, go ahead.
You had a statement?
Yeah, haven't been in the fire service for over 30 years, and haven't had the pleasure of working with Marcia's Arena for at least 10 or 15 years. I'm extremely glad to see y'all considering this, because like Dave said, and I'm not gonna beat a dead horse, the firefighters really need it. The thing I would ask you to do is to consider the $600 weekly benefit. And because I don't know how y'all would determine who makes what unless you do a survey, right? And you're never gonna get anything substantial back from a group of firefighters to get that data, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. But if you do that, you've got all your bases covered to the highest level. And if you need to do that, or decide to do that, and the money is tight, my thought would be, this is just my personal thought, you can eliminate the AD&D. I personally feel strongly that the weekly benefit, as Marcia and Zarina have talked about, is one of the most valuable things in this whole package here. So that would be just my thoughts on the subject. If money's tight, I'd go with the $600. If you can afford A&D, certainly add it. Nothing wrong with that.
But Paul is right, to have the weekly benefit, if you're gonna pick one or two, to have the one that has the weekly benefit is better for your members. Because if they're out of work for 6 weeks, they're gonna get their workers' comp, and up to $600 for loss of pay. Where this is only dismemberment in an accident or death in an accident, which can certainly occur, but it's not something that is more, I think, lucrative to the firefighters.
Sure.
And I'm sure Marcin's Reno dealt with this more than I did over the time, but when you sit down and take the phone calls from these guys and girls that have been injured, and they either don't have any health insurance, or they don't have anything to cover them, like the unfortunate situation with the gentleman was at St. Stephen's a couple of months ago, that was going to a call, got in a wreck, and nobody was there to cover him, right? I
Right.
think workers' comp, rejected that, which is no surprise, but again, I just, would ask y'all to strongly consider $600 a week.
Good. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Yes, sir, thank you. Anybody else got any questions? Chief?
I do. I got a couple. I'm gonna come over here.
Would you like to share my podium?
I stand beside you. Question I got is, you're talking about that accidental death and dismemberment, don't we already have that, I pay that $9?
Yep, by the dues, you have $5,000 for
And
those that
accidental-
aren't, not the rescue squads, but yes, the fire departments, yes, sir, $5,000.
So it's 1,600 for a natural
natural
death,
death.
but they double it,
Natural.
yeah, and they add 34 to
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
deal with that. Yeah,
Yes.
so if it's an accident, it
We
comes
have
out
a
to
little
that.
bit, but the fire department's already.
That's through the dues that are
Those
paid.
dues that we pay.
Yes, sir. You are correct.
The other question is, when do you cover? When you leave your house in your personal vehicle?
Yes.
Yes, as long as you're going to a call. It does not have to, since you're a volunteer, if that's how your station works, that you leave your house and you're headed to the fire, you're covered until you get to that situation.
Until you
You get
get
a call
Or,
and you go to the department.
yeah, you're still
Until you
covered.
get back home. As long as you don't make any stops.
Yes,
Correct.
Yeah. We already had that situation,
Yes, sir.
working on it. Answer is yes, but probably 98% of our volunteer firefighters have to drive a personal vehicle to either the call or the station.
station.
Ain't riding two on a truck. So 4 trucks, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8. Rest of them gotta go to the scene in a personal vehicle. They just won't throw that out, so
Yeah.
y'all wouldn't understand that, or hear that. So that being said, we gotta have something. And I'm gonna be blunt, that I'm flabbergasted that we didn't have coverage. I must have been lost. I've been in it 48 years, and I always thought we were covered from the time we left the house to the time we left home. I was wrong. Unless we had a policy we don't know about, and obviously we don't.
No, sir. And that's why we felt the need for it and the reason we're here with it.
I'm hoping the county's gonna do something to help the volunteer firemen and the rescue too, but I'm not sure of the
Yes.
situation. The firemen, yes, we gotta have something. We just had a situation months ago, still working on it,
Yes, sir.
has nothing. Now, this is like a supplement with the medical, right?
Yes, sir. As far, well, it's a supplemental policy, but it does have the medical built in if they had to pay, yes.
He's gotta use medical bill, but he had to go get a bunch of tests done, because he got
Yeah.
knocked out.
Yeah, as long as workers' comp wasn't covering it, then our medical would come into that benefit.
Denied it the first time.
So he was the one that was commuting and then hit the tree? Living, yeah.
It's good, I guess I'll be talking one of y'all about.
Yeah, 'cause that's what I said when I was at the last meeting. If you want to give me his information, I can reach out to him, or he can call me, but we do need to sit down, because he will have the small coverage with us, up to the 75, and then anything else that may have been
Coverage
pitched
as
in.
to what?
And $75.
No.
$7,500 medical expense benefit.
Oh, you're talking about medical, but he also would receive the $75 weekly benefit for not being able to do his full-time job.
I think it's,
So, yeah, so there's a couple things built in the association policy that kind of mimics this as well.
I'll get with you after the meeting.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that separately. But I do urge y'all to consider, y'all gotta take this to the county council, is that correct?
Well, we're gonna fix and ask Mr. Jeff in a minute if we got the funding for it on this year's budget, so we'll get through if anybody got any other questions. But one thing I wanted to bring up in the last meeting was Chief, he drives a truck a lot of times that has to go and run errands, get supplies and all that. And the way you explained it to me, he would be covered if he's coming into town to pick up supplies and
Right.
returning back home.
If the fire department has said, even up to something as easy as lunch, we're having a meeting today, please go buy pizza, take
Yep.
your vehicle, you're getting in an accident, you're covered.
Okay.
So anything on behalf of the fire department, copy paper, anything, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And they use their vehicles quite a bit just to keep it going.
so, yeah, there would be no lack of coverage in that area.
Okay.
And I can tell you from a little bit of experience, my husband, who's hiding in the corner back there, he just retired 20-something years from Irmo, and he wanted to go back as a volunteer with one of the departments close to us. But then we decided with what he currently makes, if he were to get injured and couldn't go, because he's a teacher at the Kate Center now, that we would not be able to handle just $75 plus workers' comp. So, which is a shame because he loves firefighting. But I just told him I didn't think it was smart right now because they have no separate coverage on that department.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
and I think that's what a lot of us wives think about when they get injured is how we're gonna pay things.
Sure.
So, but it's totally up to you. Do you have a question?
I do.
Okay,
A
I'm
couple.
sorry. I just ran you right over.
That's all right.
Thank you, Chief.
A couple questions. First one, this covers volunteers, not just the firefighters, but our volunteer EMS services as well. Am I
Yeah.
right with that?
So if
That's
you
the way
look
you
at-
have it figured.
Yeah, it says all volunteer classes of membership, including but not limited to volunteer member, emergency volunteer, auxiliary member, fire corps, community volunteer, which is what I was talking about, the fundraiser and stuff, board members, trustees, administrative personnel, junior firefighters, and probationary firefighters. And then they have part-time, which I think y'all didn't have any part-time, if I'm not mistaken.
Not salary-wise.
Yeah, so yeah, it covers a wide range of
So you put
everything.
EMS work, you put EMS volunteers in that 400 number?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so,
Tommy had got those numbers for us, but Brandon shaking his head, yes, we did.
yeah, the same with the rescue squads. They've
Right,
all been
yep.
included in this number.
Yes, okay. Second question, if you have a member, let's say it's an older member, that isn't active within maybe the firefighting, but still provides services to that department, whether it be, serving on the executive committee, we have, chief, assistant chief, secretary, treasurer type situation. Every station always has a guy that does all the cooking whenever they get together. So those individuals are covered as well, as long as they're still a member.
Right, and as long as, so a lot of the retirees, they don't work.
Right.
So they would probably not get up to the 300 or 600, but there is a benefit that's built in there to cover them, because it is based on loss of wages. So if they don't have any loss of wage to show us, they
Right.
wouldn't be able to collect up to that benefit amount, just a certain percentage of it,
Well, it's the minimum weekly benefit in your package there. I think
which is
it's
$100.
$100. So they would
Okay.
get they would get 100.
$100 per week until
Okay, all right.
they are covered.
And the two premium amounts that you've given to us, I'm just gonna go with Plan 3. You're basically looking at 20,000 on Plan 3 for this one. And if we went with the A and B coverage, you're looking at about 6,000. So you're looking at about $27,000 per year for coverage for both of these policies.
Correct.
For our volunteer services, about 400 people. Okay, I'm gonna make a comment, and I'm gonna make this comment before we ever
Probably gonna beat me to
talk
it.
to
Go ahead.
Mr. Shacker. All right, that's $30,000, okay, that we pay per year for 400 employees. Okay, because these guys are employees. These are not, they're volunteer
Right.
services. If we had to pay for the amount of services that they provide for us, that number would be astronomically higher. Okay, so, for $30,000 worth of insurance coverage to cover them in an emergency accident situation, in my opinion, is cheap coverage. All right, plain and simple. All right, I mean, I don't know where we can get it from. I have no idea at this point. But in my opinion, that is extremely cheap coverage for somebody who is volunteering their time and giving a benefit to the county that cost us absolutely nothing for that amount of service that they provide. So that's just my opinion.
I agree with you.
I do too, because I was like Aubrey when he called me about that situation. I just couldn't believe we didn't have coverage on our firefighters and stuff, is what they do for us. And if we have to go out and, we don't get any volunteers because we're not protecting them, which I think the county owes it to them to provide that insurance for them, because they're doing a great service for us, that, we'd be paying millions and millions of dollars trying to reproduce what they do for us with paid firefighters. So.
I agree with you.
I'm all in favor of doing both Plan 3 and both policies.
Okay,
It's-
great.
It's a small, just a mere pittance of what to pay to have that protection for our first responders. I think we owe it to them.
Yes, sir, I agree with you. Mr. Shacker, do we have it in our current budget for this insurance?
Well, it's not budgeted, but I think we could find the money in the current budget to fund
Okay.
it. I mean, we had some additional money in recruitment and retention programs, and I think y'all would all
Sure.
agree that this is absolutely critical to attracting and retaining volunteer personnel. And then I think we could also look at a couple of the other line items within rescue and fire and come up with that, probably from some of the nominal reimbursements, because we usually overfund that, just to be safe. Mr. Long is not here this evening, but I'll get with Tommy as soon as he is back in the office, and we'll come up with a plan for taking care of that. And what I came up with was $26,110, which is roughly $65 a member. So, I mean, like y'all said, it's a bargain for the service they provide.
Procedure-wise, do we bring that, if the three of us agree, do we bring that as a motion to the full council, that we fund that? How do we handle that procedure-wise?
I think y'all can just direct me to do it, since it's within the current budget, and I've got the authority in the budget ordinance to move the money between the line items, and I'll report back to y'all on where we stand on it after I talk with Tommy.
Okay.
And we'll jump on that
I'll
first
make
next
that
week.
motion.
Okay, we got a motion.
I'll second it.
Got a second? Any discussion?
I would request that we highlight that in some way, shape, or form at one of our regular council meetings, that this has been provided.
Okay.
So, anyway, I think that would be beneficial.
Great,
Will do.
Documented there.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you for coming up and giving a presentation. And I'll just get with Tommy to get with you, and when we officially purchase it, that you can come out and maybe we can break it up or have it at an association meeting, bring you in, and the firemen can, chiefs can come, firemen, whoever can come, they can come and get, hear the same thing.
Yeah, like we talked before, we can visit each station, or if you have a group of training with, like 5 or 6 stations together.
Right.
You can come talk to them, however you want us to do it.
Okay, I'll get with Tommy and he can get with you and make it work.
Okay, and then we'll go over the same things like Zarina went over about how the associations run, because a lot of our members still don't know. There's only 3 of us that travel the state to try to
Yes,
inform, so we would like everyone to be informed.
yes, I'd love to do that and educate all of our volunteers. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate you.
Obviously, those stations that already pay for that, I'm sure somehow we need to make them.
Yes, they're using their money for it, and
Yeah,
it's,
we would make them aware, as well, and see what they would want to do. We would just have to get them to say we would like to cancel their current,
Yep.
and that they would be on that, so.
thank you. And I will add, the reason they were able to afford it, they got a lot more 1% money than every other station does. And so, depending on what area they're in the county, but everybody comes together and makes this thing work. So, yes, thank you. Okay. Ms. Laura Neese? Good, thank you.
Evening. Good. Thank
Thank you.
How are y'all this evening?
Great, hope you're doing good.
Good, good. Well, it's grant season again, for the forensic science world, and I am coming before you to ask you permission to go forth with, submitting for 3 different grants. Our proposal is to establish a standalone coroner's office and morgue facility. Newberry County currently relies on an outside agency for autopsies and body storage. The arrangement increases delays in our investigation and places a huge burden on the grieving families. Dedicated coroner's office and morgue facility would centralize our services, strengthen interagency support, and ensure dignity, efficiency, and accountability for the death investigations that we do here in Newberry County. As you know, currently, our morgue facility is housed in Newberry Health. It is probably a quarter to 1/8 size of this room. Our morgue freezer, our refrigerator currently can only hold 4 bodies. And we're using overflow at times to use our mobile morgue unit when necessary. Also, we're having huge issues with decedents that have not been found immediately, and the smells that is permeating through the hospital, since the hospital air duct system is not separate for the current morgue system. Also, Newberry Pathology Group is a private entity here in Newberry County who has established forensic science, forensic pathology, and is well known. They currently service 13 different counties in South Carolina, as well as SCDC. I know with that if we do a standalone morgue and coroner's office, that there would be extra costs that would come from the county taxpayers' dollars. One of my proposed ways to counteract that funding is to charge a $100 morgue fee for each autopsy that is done that is not Newberry County related. Since Newberry Pathology does about 1,000 autopsies a year, that could roughly be $100,000 of revenue that would come into Newberry County to help offset the facility costs that we propose. We would like permission to go ahead and apply for 3 grants. All are through the Bureau of Justice Assistance. The first one is a formula grant. It can be up to $24 million is the top amount that they are going to be able to fund. It's a 24-month grant. This would allow us to do a building along with some equipment to outfit the morgue itself. We also want to use the Strengthening Medical Examiners and Coroners grant specifically for equipment that we would need for the morgue: tables, floor scales, freezers, refrigerators, HVAC systems, that type of equipment, and as well as another Paul Coverdale Science competitive grant. We can apply for all 3 of these grants. Like I said, 2 of them will allow us to do structure buildings. The 3rd one would not, but it would allow us to do equipment to outfit the office and the morgue facility itself. Another thing that we're running into a problem is our families. We don't have a designated spot for family meetings when we speak with our families. We are graciously housed in the Sheriff's Department, and we do have one little spot, but we would like to be able to have a little bit more private area. We also are coming to a lot of the times that the families want to see their decedents. With the times of economic crisis right now, we're seeing a lot of direct cremations, which means that the families cannot see their loved ones before they go to a crematorium. So we would like to be able to give our citizens and the families that we deal with the opportunity to do that. Some key advantages are faster responses for autopsies and case resolutions, also for law enforcement. As I've said before, we will be getting the Randox machine this year. So we'll be able to give law enforcement agencies a quicker turnaround on toxicology results. This could also allow us to assist law enforcement in any other type of investigation that they may need. Community dignity, you know, our number one mission is to respect and give the families the dignity and that their loved ones deserve even in death. Preparedness, it would also give us emergency management preparedness, as we saw in Hurricane Helene this past year. We did have to move our mobile morgue outside to the hospital, and they used it regularly, either just for either outside counties coming in that needed to do death investigations, because whether hurricane related or just regular day investigations, that the mobile morgue was actually being constantly used. They even asked if we could move it back there. However, we don't have the structure that we need in order to put it back at the hospital at this time. Other than that, we are requesting that you guys approve for us to go forth with the grant submissions as a critical investment for Newberry County. It's going to enhance our public safety, reduce long-term costs, and support multiple agencies to ensure dignity for the families at their time of loss. With the morgue fees starting at $100 per case, and Newberry Pathology Group's average of 1,000 autopsies generating at least or approximately $100,000 annually, the facility will create sustainability revenue streams to offset the cost. Any questions? I probably threw a lot at you, but go ahead.
No, that's okay. Thank you for putting this together for us, and thank you for what you do for Newberry County, for sure. The grant that you're looking to apply for, do you know at this point if that's 100% coverage grant?
It is 100, all three of the grants are 100%. There is no match in them.
Okay, all right.
Okay, good, thank you. And you will be doing a grant writing on it?
Our Deputy Coroner Desiree
Okay.
Montswell.
Okay.
All three of us will be working on it together. We've designated her kind of as our grant writer. She's done a fabulous job. We've gotten some extra autopsy money grant through the SCORE funds. We have also gotten monies through the Healthcare Coalition for the Randox machine, and for us to go through the Narcan training. All that is 100% grant funded.
I have a question on the fees that you would charge Newberry Pathology. Are you going to make them sign a contract? Would that be a year contract, 5-year, renewing? And what happens if all of a sudden they pull out? Are you going to try to recruit somebody else to come in and do autopsies to make up that?
We definitely could do that. Currently, Greenville Pathology also comes down to the Newberry area now and is doing autopsies with Newberry Pathology Group because of the caseload that they have. We can discuss if you guys feel a 5-year contract would be more beneficial. We absolutely, I know Dr. Rose is open to whatever contracts that need to be signed. We have been in talks for several years over this idea.
Sure. I guess the main thing is if we go ahead with the grant, then it had to be full council approval to get the ball rolling. So if you do the grant, when will you know if you receive it? How long does that generally take?
Well, the grant submission due days is October 27th, so I guess I would have to come in front of council. It wouldn't be in time to come in front of council before then?
Yeah,
Unless I came in public comment on Monday or Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly something we could add to the agenda. Of course, you know, y'all could authorize the submission of the grant, and, I mean, there's some things that need to be pulled together with the project, that, you know, Laura has overviewed. And I guess, you know, accepting the grant moving forward with the project, I guess ultimately would be contingent on pulling all those things together.
It's a lot of moving parts into it. That would be the biggest thing is if we grant the okay to go ahead and try for the grant, that's the I guess, the main agenda.
Correct. I was asked to come before you guys, through administration
Yes.
to present what the financial responsibility of the county would be. So that's why I'm here before you now, in order to get the okay to even start the grant
It's
process.
sort of the starting point. That
Right.
We need to work through a lot of details and, you know, continue those discussions with the other parties and
Right.
try to pull all that together.
So we could add it to the agenda for Wednesday's council meeting.
I mean, technically, yeah, I mean, you can amend the agenda up to 24 hours in advance of the meeting. We would just have to.
Because I think that since, it could incur the county to some money, I think the whole council should hear it, but I want to make sure we get it on there so we don't miss the chance to applying for the grants and everything. I want to make sure we're, because, you know, we miss out on that. That's, you know, we always like to get if you can get that free money to build a structure and all that stuff, that's great, and it's not costing the taxpayers any money.
I mean, y'all can certainly go about it that way, or y'all could authorize the submission of the grant now, understanding that all the details and moving forward on the project would come back to council
If
you're
the
successful
grant's
with the grant.
obtained.
Yeah.
And pull it
Yeah.
together.
Either-
I mean, I think either way, you're
Okay.
in the same boat,
Okay.
because, you know, there's elements of the project that, you know, we don't have signed agreements. You know, there's details that are gonna have to be worked out, and even if council authorizes the submission of the grant, it would still need to come back to council to accept the grant, move forward with the project, so. But I mean, that's certainly, if y'all wanna amend the agenda and have that on Wednesdays, we can do that.
Yeah.
I don't see a need,
I mean,
personally.
either way, you want to just go ahead and,
Yeah. I
Let's
mean,
go ahead. and,
Yeah.
I'd say let her ask for the money.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion, we go ahead and, as the Public Safety and Courts Committee, I'll make that motion, and we vote on it. That way we can go ahead, and she can go ahead and make that, grant request.
Okay,
Right.
we have got.
With those things about getting the particulars put in there at a later date. But as far as the application move forward,
Okay, you put it in the form of a motion.
I did.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a second. Any other discussion?
So at this point, I guess to reiterate where we are with it, you're gonna move forward, go ahead and try to obtain the grant.
They said
What-
December 15th, their awards will come out.
That
so
was
we'll know.
my question.
December 15th is when they will let us know if we've been approved for it.
Okay.
And then it will move to the next process.
Okay,
So it moves pretty fast.
Yes, sir. That's
So-
what we.
Surprisingly.
Sure.
so,
It was just open.
I understand.
So-
Do you have a place, if this thing would go through, do you have a location, or do we have existing building, or what's your game plan?
Yes, sir. Actually, before this past fiscal year, Jeff and I had sat down and discussed a building area, and Building Services was able to get up with the West family, and they found us a spot on Commerce Lane behind Sonic, which is in about an acre area. And I did include those
Yeah,
building
I saw that
plans
here.
and all the information and the breakdown of what Mr. Mack gave me for those plans.
I got one more question. So
Sure.
we're putting in for 3 grants. Do we have are you gonna have like a contingency in case, okay, we only get 2 out of the 3, or we get 1? Based on that, what will we do if we only got 1 of the grants?
We'll probably, depending on what grant it is, I know there's a lot of equipment that our office needs, and we could help assist the morgue with equipment. We would go forth with
And
that.
since they're 100%, that's great, so, okay.
It'll just, we just have to amend the grant information, which is no problem doing.
So if everything went through, got approved with the new facility, how far in the future would it take us with this?
I guess we'd have to talk with Building Services.
No, I'm
sorry.
meaning how far right now we're working in a limited number of spaces. So if with this new procedure, new building,
Oh, how many years?
yes,
I would say, depending on what the growth is,
okay,
I would say we could probably get 15 to 20 years, if not more.
Okay.
And with the area that they're looking to do the building, I would say that there is definitely room for expansion if
Okay.
necessary.
Okay,
But by then I won't be here, so, and I don't think any of us will be on council.
okay.
Hopefully, we're not a growing business.
There you go,
I
okay,
mean, you might be, but
okay,
Population is going up, so.
yeah, well,
and we
Okay.
have a lot of, I
Got a
mean, we
motion?
have a lot.
yeah, we
of
got a
trained
motion, got a
people.
second, any more discussion?
No, I think-
All in favor? Thank you for your work on it,
Thank you,
and
gentlemen. I
we look
greatly
forward
appreciate
to hearing back from the,
Perfect.
procedure.
Do I need to come to county council on Wednesday? We're good?
No, I think we're good.
Thank you so much.
Thank
John.
you.
I appreciate it.
All right.
all right, next on the agenda, okay, Mr. Chief Chris Johnson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It has me down as Board of Rescue Chairman, which I am, but I am here as the Chief of the Rescue Squad tonight. But I will tell you that on behalf of the board, thank you for what y'all did tonight with the insurance coverage that not only helps the fire departments, but will also benefit the rescue squads. My boss has instructed me that in 2 years, I had to figure out the junior rescue squad. When he turned 14, said he could get on, so this has gotten me out of some hot water, so I appreciate that as well. What I'm here to discuss tonight is a couple issues that we are facing, unfortunately, quicker than I thought would have come about. One of them being the 800 radios. Last CPST project was probably one of the biggest advancements this county made for public safety, and that was switching to the 800 PAL radio system. It has been tremendous in what we do, our safety, our ability to communicate with not only inside the county, but outside of the county. The only problem with it was we failed to plan for the future. We do good. We've got reoccurring costs in the budget for paying our airtime fees, but we don't have anything in the budget to buy new radios. And so I have been fortunate here in the last several months that I've got 7 employees, as I call them, volunteers, that do not have radios. Mr. Long has indicated that there are no radios to be given. One of those just completed EMT school at the end of last week, got her passing scores from National Registry, and I have no radio to give her. So if she's on a scene and she's in a house, she needs a helicopter, or she needs other, requests, she's either got to go back to the truck to get on the radio or hope one of the other members there has a radio that she can talk on. That to me is unacceptable. It's a risk to their safety that if they get into a situation and that scene turns bad, they probably don't have time to call 911. That radio may be their only lifeline, and 7 of those members are going to be without it. And so I would encourage you, I know again, these things are not cheap. Unfortunately, and I won't say unfortunately, Motorola has a great system. When we were in the fire service many years ago, the radios were $400, and you could buy them from anywhere. With the way PAL 800 system works, you can only buy certain radios to go on their system. Some of it is certain other companies won't sell you that radio, or they'll sell it to you, but they're not going to open that radio to go on the PAL 800 system because they want you to buy their system. And so there's some hurdles there that are not our own making, but these radios are going to cost for an appropriate radio for fire and rescue. They're about $7,000 a radio. Now, the good news is those $400 radios that would last a couple years, these radios can last. My first 800 radio lasted me 10 years before we got an upgrade, and it was still fine. And that was before Newberry went to that system. So they're great radios. They're expensive radios. Under current administration, we have been extremely lucky in having our capital outlay budget restored to about $13,000 per rescue squad. That allows me to buy 1 radio a year, which is still not going to work for what we need, what the entire county needs. I'm sure I'm not the only department in this situation. And so I would encourage you, I know, again, at the state level, we typically at the end of the year, sometimes we'll see these pots of money at the end where we can make one-time cost purchases. I don't know if here y'all see that. I've never seen it on the rescue squad side, but, you know, I'm not sure that there's not money that may come available. So I wanted to put this on your radar, that if at the end of the budget year you do have some one-time money, this would be a project that would benefit from those funds. The other thing I wanted to talk about is our Hearst tools. Unfortunately, we are running the Hearst 5,000 PSI system on our main rescue truck. It's what they call a low-pressure system. We had a wreck with entrapment at Old Whitmire and Highway 76 just a matter of a week or so ago. The rescue tech that was operating on that scene noticed that the tools weren't operating quite like they usually do, and had heard a tick in them when they opened. So we had a tech come out, look at them, indicated as general wear and tear on the tool. It's a pin inside the head that is just wear and tear. The only way to fix it is to rebuild it. The problem is, when we went back and looked at that serial number on that tool is obsolete. They don't make parts for it anymore. So I can't get it rebuilt. I can't replace it because they don't sell that line of tools anymore. So I'm in a position. We've gotten some of the hydraulic tools, which are great, but I don't think hydraulics should be our frontline tool for what we do. Our rescue squad covers 248 square miles of the county. 35 miles of that is interstate. We cover a large portion of highway on 76 from Kinders down toward Prosperity, Highway 395, Highway 121, Highway 34, all being heavily traveled by commercial traffic. And while the battery tools are great, they are battery operated. The tools that we use, the low pressure system, runs off of a electric Trimo pump that is hardwired into our rescue truck. Their tools are automatically on hose reels, you know, so we pull up, we flip 2 switches, we grab the tools, we go to work. It's a great system. However, I can't buy any more low pressure tools. So we did some looking. If I were to replace all the tools on our lead out rescue with hydraulics, $76,000. And again, that is not our preferred system. So Hearst makes a high pressure system that, again, I would replace all the tools, but the problem with that is I have to replace my pump, I have to replace my hoses, and I have to replace my hose reels. So those would be incidental one-time purchases not affected by the tools, but that would be approximately $67,500. Again, we are so appreciative of the $13,000 we get every year, but that takes me in tying up my entire budget for the next 6 to 7 years to make that purchase. And I've got a tool that, while it still functions, the tech told me, you know, it could last a day, it could last 10 years. My problem is, if I respond to a wreck, whether it's any one of you gentlemen or my son's in the car trapped, I don't want to rely on a tool that I know is obsolete, has got problems, and could fail. And so, again, I know you can't write me a check tonight to replace these tool systems, but we need this on the radar. If there's one-time money at the end of the budget, great. This is another one of those things that needs to be high on the radar. But when we start talking next year with budgets and, you know, 26, 27 budget, again, I want it on your radar. I'll be back, you know, when those budget times come. But, you know, I want you understanding now how important this is, and that if we do find that pot of gold somewhere in the county, there are some real needs that we have that need immediate attention.
Sure. Chief, I got one question for you. How about the other rescue squads? How are they on their radios?
I know there are a couple that don't have radios. I don't know about the fire service. Again, and I just know the last conversations I've had with Tommy were, hey, I need a radio. I don't have any. I've got more members. I need more radios. I don't have any. And so,
that's a good situation, having more members.
It is. We've been very fortunate. I was telling somebody the other day, you know, a year and a half ago, Thursday nights, Wednesday nights, I was calling, begging members to cover high school football games and college games and, you know, Oktoberfest festivals. The last couple of every high school game this year, I've had 7 people on site at the high school games. I've had another truck at the Newberry Academy helping cover their schedule. Oktoberfest and that college game that night, between the two, I had 10 people out running calls and covering events. And we were slammed that day.
You were busy on
I
the
had
interstate.
5 patients from Oktoberfest to the college, and I mean, we were humping it. And so we're in a great position. You know, we were not in that good a position not too long ago, but, you know, I think we are making a turn with some changes that we've made. A lot of help from the sheriff with our dispatch policy. I think that's made a big difference. And so I think we're on the right path. And, you know, the insurance thing is going to be a huge recruitment and retention, but being able to provide members with good equipment, radios, extrication equipment, you know, the last thing we want is to go out there and, you know, cutting on a car. And as soon as we get an entrapment, we're calling for a secondary rescue squad to be coming to back us up. But we need to have some confidence in the tools. I don't want to go out, you know, knowing that there's a chance. There's always a chance.
Right.
But I don't want that increasing odd on our side that there's going to be a failure. And so we would ask that as y'all are going about your county duties, if you see an opportunity, have this in the back of your mind. I didn't want to wait till budget time and us miss an opportunity.
Sure.
And so as y'all go about your county business, if you see an opportunity to fund these 2 projects, we'd just like to have that in the back of your head. Oh, hey, there's this.
I'll get with Tommy and we'll discuss and get back with you.
Absolutely. Like I said, we're gonna request it in the as a line item going forward. I think we requested it last year. It's not a problem until it's a problem. Now it's a problem.
I understand.
And so we want to keep addressing it and hopefully making some positive outcomes. Yes, sir.
One question is, so to replace the tools with the E-type tools is $76,000.
Yes, sir.
And then with the Hearst high-pressure tools, it was 67?
It's $67,500 to do a full replacement, which is what we want. We want the high-pressure system. We have hydraulic tools on our backup truck.
Right.
I think they're a great tool for quick door pops. But when you start getting into commercial trucks and a heavy wreck with entrapment and entanglement, I don't want to rely on a battery tool. I
And we
want
have an
something that's
incident
got-
like Helene last year where some of our fire stations didn't even have a generator. They couldn't charge any of their stuff.
Yes, sir. And
Other people-
that's how they charge is, and I know we're working on getting generators at all the stations. I like a foolproof plan when it comes to extrication, and that's, you know, I got a 98% chance that when I flip the switch, I'm gonna have power, and I'm gonna have hydraulic fluid behind those tools, and we're gonna be running.
Another question.
Yes, sir.
The Hearst tool replacement, you said was 68,000 for yours. How about other departments?
They're gonna be in the
stations?
same boat. I have not done a survey or checked, and I will at the next Board of Rescue meeting. And that's one of the things that we've been talking about is getting a good inventory of what all the other squads have. But that was one of the things I mentioned, you know, we cover so much interstate. And so one of the things that the squads have done really good about is Pomeri and Whitmire, they specialize in trench rescue and high angle. So I don't need to buy a $100,000 trench trailer. I know that I can call Whitmire and Pomeri and I'm gonna get that equipment. If I need water rescue and dive, I'm gonna call Prosperity Rescue Squad. They've got the dive team and all that. Where we're at and where we're centrally located, we always have focused on making extrication our top priority as well as search and rescue. So to circle back around, all of the squads, other than maybe Prosperity, are running Hearst tools, and I believe, again, please don't hold me until I can confirm the information, but I think they're all running 5,000 PSIs as well as a complement of hydraulic tools.
Okay, and you're 14?
Yes, sir. We are 14. We're here in Newberry, right there on Attaway Street.
I'd like to get with Tommy and do a survey of age of equipment.
Yes, sir.
And maybe we
I
can get
will-
together and,
We'll work on getting that inventory together. But like I said, I know every Hearst tool I've got right now, other than the hydraulics that we just got last year, are obsolete and out of date, that they can't get parts for. So we're in a bind.
I understand.
Like I said, right now, we're gonna keep our fingers crossed that we don't have a failure.
Yes,
but
sir.
we need a plan to move forward on this.
Sure. Okay, we'll get with Tommy on that and let him work on it with you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Chris Woods with FEMA reimbursement.
It's got a couple things that kind of want to update everybody on as far as where we at money-wise, project-wise, and just the overall FEMA recovery process. We've made some significant improvements and gotten some things finished since the last time I was here, which has been nice, and we've actually got some money, which has even been a little more nicer than I think sometimes that eases everybody's pain and mine, you know, going forward, because things do add up. And it's not something that's you ever really budget for, especially in Inland County, but we're getting the money back. We're actually running a little bit of a surplus thus far on the projects, which makes things even a little more palatable, because I know in our world, kind of the invoices are never small. Most of what we do is bigger type stuff and big line items that somebody's got to figure out how to pay for. As of right now, the airport is pretty much done. We've been paid $9,500 roughly on that. The only thing that we've got to do is the state did throw in the mitigation, because the federal amount was $7,177. The state threw in mitigation money to improve the airport fuel. Had kind of, I guess you would call it a carport, but they wanted some upgrades to it, and we were able to use a local vendor and keep the cost down. So we got one gate to fix out there, that's done, and we should have a good little surplus there, even for a small project, because we were able to go in and estimate the project out, and what the national average was to do those repairs was significantly less than what we could do it here on, you know, using local contractors. So that was a plus. I have $460,000, and that obviously has changed today because we got about $110,000 in today in a check. And those projects for that were the Lynch's Woods Picnic Shelter, which was, I estimated at $56,483, and it was significantly less than that. And we were able to get that whole amount funded through the federal and state, so we ran a good surplus there. Debris removal is 100% federal, and they matched all of our invoices that we had on the initial. I think there was 3 or 4 invoices that totaled up to $52,000, and that was some stuff, I think mainly in Lynch's Woods, where we were just trying to get ready for the Spartan race last year, and we're kind of under the gun, and it wasn't the easiest thing to get through, but I didn't want to push getting mitigation or anything on that. And then emergency and protective measures, that's $354,763. That has already been approved. It's been sitting for 17 days at the state, waiting on a check to be cut. But that was approved the same day as the 109 that we got today. So while they sent one and not the other, you know, I'm not totally sure, but that has already been approved and waiting on somebody at the state to send us a check. So the big thing that we're dealing with now is the bridges that were damaged. You know, we had a bunch of timber frame bridges throughout the county that were damaged during the storm. Trees fell on them, debris blew up underneath of them. I think at the last council meeting, you guys voted on Parrish and Partners Engineering out of Columbia. I met with them last week. Kind of went over the concept of what Jeff, Tommy, and I had talked about, you know, biting these things off one and 2 at a time, maybe, depending on how our, you know, funding surplus was looking, because we are probably going to be in a cost share. I don't think that we're going to be at the full 25% once we do the mitigation, but we're still probably going to have to come out of pocket 10 to 15% on those bridges, each one of them. There's 3 of them that were closed going into the storm, and my thought on those is FEMA's probably not going to cover those. However, there's some alternate funding sources that if you've been hit with a disaster in the last 2 years, because of all the changes at FEMA and within DHS, that we can go ahead and go after, which we need to get them fixed. But obviously, we're going to have to prioritize the ones that I think that I can get pushed through, as far as, you know, level of need, because some of these bridges, there are routes that people can take to go around. It's an inconvenience, but they're able, we can get first responders, we can get things taken care of in an emergency. You know, at this point, I don't think that we can really hinge our decisions on if somebody's got to drive 2 or 3 miles out of their way because we got whacked from a hurricane. So I met with the engineers. The only problem that we have, and this is something that I've got to talk to everybody about, is the fact that if we cut them loose, and I explained kind of the game plan that we had, because I didn't want them to turn, 4 or 5 engineers loose on all these bridges, knowing that probably 3 of them are going to get denied because they were set for repair going into the storm, is them rack up a $250,000, $300,000 bill in a month, assessing the bridges and starting preliminary design and cost. And really, there's a couple that we have to get a handle on, and I kind of want to turn them loose on that. The only problem that I got with it is if they go out and do an assessment, initial assessment, and they do find something that, the bridges are pretty rough going into the storm, but if they find something while they're there, by law, they have to call in DOT for an emergency inspection. What I don't want to have happen is us take a priority bridge, them go in, look at it, DOT comes in, shuts it down because it hasn't been inspected in 2 years, and then we may have an issue where, we may cut somebody off, or it may not be a 2 or 3 mile reroute, that it may be something where we're rushing to try and get a temporary bridge in to Band-Aid the problem until we can figure something out. And that can be really, really expensive. And with the amount of bridge outages in the Carolinas right now, finding a temporary bridge, we'd probably have to go to the Midwest or somewhere and get one brought in, from what we're seeing, not only the Carolinas, but Florida as well. Probably still looking at somewhere in the $4 million range to repair all these bridges, in my opinion. We got a preliminary price on a bridge that wasn't necessarily in the FEMA scope, but it was for 2 60-inch culverts, the fill and, the surfacing, it was gonna be about $500,000, and that was just plain old culverts, not doing anything with the bridge. And I know some of these bridges with the height that they have, because we are under SCDOT, limitations, I think that's kind of what this county has gone with, is their codes and standards. They're gonna have to be some type of span type structure. We're not gonna get away with a box culvert or anything like that. So that's gonna be another thing where we kinda all gotta sit down and say, look, what's priority 1, 2, 3, and 4, and take it like that to where we don't get ourselves in trouble as far as having to rush around, and cut somebody off from their house, or, have to totally shut a road down. Debris removal, they finally finished up Lynch's Woods. Not all the debris has been taken off the site, but they are out of there. And the good thing about that is we're gonna be cleaned up and ready to go for the Spartan race this year, which I know was one of Jesse's main concerns. We had some serious situations back there with trees on the trails, across the roads. We're gonna try and get the roads completely done before, but at least the areas where the competitors will be at, pretty much done and cleaned up. And that's gonna be submitted for payment, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. But like I said, the initial that we had was the $52,414. We got the money for that today, so we're good there. Obviously, the other outstandings will be 100% state and federal money combined. That's gonna be another roughly $270,000. But all that should be no problem. Road repair. This has been something that's been going on really since the storm, and it's been something that I've gotten a little bit of pushback on, but I actually got the TFL from the JFO, which is the Joint Field Office in Greenville, to come down, and we sit down with Public Works last Thursday and did an all-day doing GPS coordinates, road widths, things like that. One of the things that I was having trouble getting our region to understand, the Atlanta office is, we're a rural county. We got a couple 100 miles of gravel roads. A lot of these things, culverts blew out, roads washed away. We've used a tremendous amount of gravel, probably, 2.5 years worth of gravel since the storm. just trying to get everything resurfaced, regraded, things like that. I estimated the cost out to be about $960,000. Now, not all of that's out of, county money per se, but some of that, or well, the vast majority of it is actually county equipment and labor that's been used from the federal, they have kind of like a flow chart of how much each employee gets and how much, you put in. They had 3 F-150s out there, those all get billed by the hour. Pending this getting done the way that it is, I mean, that would give us enough money probably to fund the bridge projects and still not have to come out of pocket with any, trying to budget in money for next year or do things like that to try and get the bridge projects done. We're gonna meet again this Thursday and trying to get that thing finished up and pushed on through. Obviously, there's some stuff going on in Washington right now that's slowing things down a little bit, but, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know which one, the whole government's run by contractors, so a lot of people on the federal side are still working because most of the people that actually handle the flow of it all are contractors. Basically me on a federal side, so, which we've been able to get it, but we can only get it to a certain point right now, just because we're in a government shutdown. Nobody's really given us any kind of timeline on when that's gonna, come back on. Parks and Recreation and the community center's done. That project should probably already been paid. However, with it being a historic registry structure, we had some gutter damage and some fascia and things like that. To keep it the way that it was, FEMA can cost out and I can cost out, and then we kind of negotiate back and forth on what we estimate the cost to be. Luckily, in this case, we had a invoice from Baker already done. They're complete over there. It was like $27,000, and it wouldn't be the end of the world if we had to go off FEMA's cost, but I had to explain to them, and I didn't want to just sign off on a project because we'd be leaving money on the table. But that building, per historic registry, we need to replicate anything that's on there. That building's pre-Civil War. They were able to cost out basically a standard gutter system and, do some cleanup in the basement, but I told them, we gotta go with a gutter it was a half circle type gutter that we had over there. And I said, look, you can't just put a regular gutter from Lowe's up here. I mean, this building's almost 200 years old, so. We went back and forth, we got that pushed through last week, so we're good there. We may have to come out of pocket $1,500, but that'd be worst case scenario. But there again, we're still already working off a surplus, so that's, makes life a little bit easier. Lynch's Woods Trails, they're still doing some cleanup over there, but everything's looking good. Picnic shelter's done, and we've got a bunch of stuff in CRC for final review, and a bunch of projects that are pre-obligated, which is basically they've gotten as far as they can get during the government shutdown. Hazard mitigation, we sent out last week, I believe it was, we submitted PO for the generators from the Hurricane Ian. That was kind of the one that had been sitting out there before I was hired that nothing had really gotten done with. We got that pushed through. It was $290,000, I think. Yeah, $289,000. And that was gonna get us generators at a bunch of the fire stations that didn't have generators, that were having issues, like when we would go through these long-term power outages and things like that. Being able to get the doors open, charge the batteries on the equipment. All that's done, we got the bids in, and everything's moving forward. The only problem that we got with that, again, because of everything that's happened over the last, year and a half, we're 30 weeks out on generators. So they got the purchase order, they've been ordered. Hopefully it won't take that. If we could get a couple of them in and moving, that would be nice too, because we could kind of space out the cost share a little bit. Wait on some of these other funds to get back in and kind of pay those down along and along. Everything that we've come up with on all the other, there were some generators, we had some flooding issues at the rescue squad, hydrology study in Lynch's Woods, and a couple other things. All that stuff's already been applied for mitigation for Helene. It's been about 40 days, I can't remember exactly what it was, in state review. We shouldn't have any problems there, you know, and we're, I think, looking at about all mitigation projects together, about $4 million. Of course, that's a spitball estimate on a lot of that stuff, because you always want to throw it out there high and make sure that it'll get approved high, and then you can kind of, you know, it's easier to walk back your budget than do cost overruns on everything. Again, this kind of just shows where we're at with everything on mitigation. And a lot of that's probably, you know, it's going as fast as it can. Obviously, there's a ton of mitigation going on in the state, and SEMD is very understaffed right now. But we do have over 50 applications total, and that's each individual site across the county, Ian and Helene. Federal government shutdown, this is kind of the one thing that my phone rings about 3 or 4 times a day about. What's going on with it? We really don't know. It's not going to be a forever thing. Hopefully, you know, in a week or 2 we can get things back going. The other thing is going into this, FEMA's been going through a lot of changes, and DHS as a whole. So everything that's over $100,000 has to personally pass across, excuse me, Christy Noem's desk, and she has to sign off on any project that's over $100,000. Well, we got a ton of projects that are over $100,000, so they're at that final point for her to sign off on. Federal releases funds to the state, then we got to wait on them to cut the check. Hopefully, we can get, you know, the vast majority of this. My goal is to get almost, you know, the bridges. Realistically, we're not going to get those done by the end of the year, but I think that we can probably have everything done and paid for else by December 31st. And walk into next year kind of ahead of the game, and really focus on the bridges. The one thing that we got to take into account is if we do have another storm, is duplication of benefits. We just need to make sure, because we're kind of pushing these out. We're not under a serious time crunch to get them done, but we just need to make sure that we're documenting everything with the engineers and getting them, you know, we got them on board now, and make sure that that thing keeps rolling, because what you don't want is more damage to come in, and they have a tendency, if a structure gets damaged twice, to just deny everything, because they'll say, well, such and such happened in this storm and such happened in that storm. Then you're not over 50% of the cost, so we're under the 50% rule. So they're gonna say, you know, throw a new deck on it or throw 2 new pylons under it, and it should be fine until next go around. You know, in closing, everything's good. I mean, we're working good as a team. You know, funding's finally starting to come around, which was been a kind of a big headache this storm for whatever reason. Change of administration, everything that happened during Helene, the scrutiny that it's been under, the scrutiny that FEMA's been under, it was just really slow this go around. And I mean, we've talked about it before. I don't know the rhyme or reason, but it is what it is. But money's finally starting to come in. We should be able to get all the county out-of-pocket expenses in the next, you know, project or 2, and then we'll kind of be working off house money, I guess you could say, going forward. You know, that'll be able to clear everything out on the budget, everything that was spent, can go back in, and then we should have significant surplus going forward.
I certainly appreciate it, Mr. Wood.
Yes, sir. Glad I could help.
Any comments?
Just thank you for all the work you did and helped us through the process and helped us getting those funds and stuff.
No problem. It's tricky, and it's not over yet. The bridges are going to be something that we're all going to have to sit down and talk about as far as prioritizing and how we're going to go about that. Because once we pull the trigger on it, we're going to have to roll with it, you know. And it's one of those things that we got to, you know, it needs to be done, but it is, again, a lot of money. So.
Sure, and you spoke about those generators with the time limit, with the backlog on that. 30.
And we're going to run into that too with the ones that we just applied for
Right.
the rest of them in Helene. So if we're 30 weeks out, you know, we haven't had, knock on wood, we haven't had a big storm this year. Now, that doesn't say that we don't get a big winter storm in the south or something in it, but if we can make it through this winter without any major disaster declarations, you know, that'll get them caught back up, and I think things will start to roll back in as far as lead time. But we've
Okay.
seen it with, you know, pumps for lift stations and wastewater facilities and water facilities, everything, you know, there's so much infrastructure destroyed last year that it's, everything across the board that we typically deal with is on back order or extended lead time.
Sure. Certainly appreciate your help on the project, and thank you for keeping us informed.
No problem. Glad I could do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes, sir. Thank you, appreciate it. Public comments? I think everybody's made a comment, hadn't they? Okay, committee comments? Okay,
I
here,
don't necessarily have it.
here none, okay.
I think we covered everything so far.
I think we did too,
Good
very,
presentation by all the
yeah.
presenters and good questions from everybody.
Thought everything went real well. Thank you, and I will talk to Tommy with insurance and get word to all the chiefs what we're working on.
Yeah. And
Thank you,
Chairman-
Brandon, for helping on that.
Chairman Smith, and this could go without saying, but, and I'm going to oversimplify it, so Chris may cringe a little bit. But the concept from a cash flow standpoint is, you know, we had hard dollar expenses that we incurred in the aftermath of Helene, but then we also had labor and equipment, the use of equipment that was budgeted. You know, it wasn't like an additional expense to the county, and the concept is to get reimbursed from FEMA for those expenses, which again are not hard dollar, but then to use it to leverage these other funding sources to replace the bridges. So that if, fingers crossed, if we get really fortunate, the match money to replace the bridges is money that we got from FEMA.
Great.
That was not a reimbursement for a hard cost. It was a reimbursement for a, we'll just call it a soft cost. That's the idea.
It's all about the book. It's just a way that if you can look at, have the foresight to look at it that way. You know, money's money, but in the end, the county has to budget huge expenses. But if we can play the game the way that it needs to be played, you can really, you know, I hate to say it, but walk out of something that's really bad and be in better shape than when you started, if you look at the long game of it.
Sure.
And it addresses a pressing need that we've had for quite a while now with those bridges, but then it also makes Newberry County more resilient to future storms.
Sure.
So that's kind of the concept.
Great. Appreciate all the hard work everybody's doing for us. Speaking for all of the citizens too, thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate it. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Got one, got
Second.
second, any discussion on it? All in favor? Means adjourned. Thank you.